Before you step into my story, please hit follow if you want to hear more everyday family tales where tragedies don't erupt in shouts but hide in glances, startling words, or an unexpected door slam. Just a week after the wedding, my mother-in-law showed up at our house with a notary. She demanded I sign a declaration I had no premarital assets, and if any were discovered later, they'd be considered joint property. That person was standing at my door. It felt like a scene from a legal drama, sharp, formal, cold. But this wasn't a movie. This was my life, and I was facing a question. Is love truly strong enough to withstand a life full of doubts? My name is Emma Monroe, 26, navigating the world of numbers and reports. I'm a financial analyst for an investment fund in Manhattan. Daniel, my husband, is a physics lecturer at Columbia University. We met at a student financial literacy event, debating how to quantify marriage in modern times. He was the first to make me believe that in a world that judges people by bank accounts and bedroom counts, someone could love me for who I am. He chose my heart, not my asset list. I grew up in a middle-class Brooklyn family. My dad was an electrician, my mom an auditor. The greatest wealth my parents ever had came from my grandmother's hard work. She baked, sold secondhand clothes, and invested in real estate when the market was shaky. When she passed, she left me 3 apartments in Williamsburg, Harlem, and the Upper East Side. I chose silence not to hoard it all, but because I'd seen how a woman's worth gets questioned and controlled when she has more in a marriage. My mother was crushed for years by my paternal grandmother accused of marrying my dad for her dowry shock. I swore I'd rely on my skills, but never beg anyone to live my way. What's mine I must protect, and what's to be shared must come at the right time. On our wedding day, as I stepped out of the car, Daniel waited at the church door, smiling, with a gaze free of doubt or calculation, no hint of a marital asset equation. I said simply, I only need you. That's enough. In that moment, I believed pure love is the most priceless asset. But a single knock, a single person stepping into that frame with papers and skeptical eyes can make a love story more complicated than ever. And that person was about to knock. Do you believe happiness can be shattered by a doorbell rung at the wrong moment? A week after the wedding, I was still basking in the honeymoon glow. Our small apartment was filled with morning coffee scents and golden sunlight through the curtains. Daniel had just left for work, and I was working from home. When the doorbell rang, I thought it was our neighbor, maybe Joyce, returning the cake pan I lent her for the wedding. But when I opened the door, my heart skipped half a beat. She was standing there. Linda, my mother-in-law, in a long beige coat face, meticulously made up, holding a leather bag, and accompanied by a stranger. Polite gray suit, briefcase eyes, scanning me head to toe. "Let me introduce," the man said. "I'm Peter Crawley, a notary. I'm here to witness and certify a post-nuptial agreement." I blinked, forcing my voice to stay calm as I invited them in. Linda sat as if she owned the place. She placed a folder on the table, sliding it toward me. "This is the post-nup. For transparency, I think you should sign that you have no premarital assets, and if any are found later, they'll be joint property." I said nothing for a few seconds. A cold wave surged inside me. I'd anticipated this day, but not so soon. Not without Daniel here. Not like this, sneaky, pressured, openly distrustful. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "I don't think I should sign anything without Daniel knowing." Linda pursed her lips. "This isn't about Daniel. It's between you and me. It's assurance. Everyone knows American marriages are fragile these days." I laughed, unsure if it was bitter or sarcastic. Then why not ask Daniel if he needs assurance from me? Peter, the notary, flipped pages, trying to keep the mood neutral, but clearly growing impatient. Linda stared at me. "You have 3 apartments. Don't deny it. I don't need Daniel to know I need clarity. If you don't sign today, I'll talk to him tonight." I stood. My voice wasn't loud but firm. "Then go ahead and talk." I picked up the folder, placed it back on the table. "I won't sign anything without my husband present. And if you think threats will sway me, you underestimate me." Linda took a deep breath. She stood, signaling Peter. At the door, she turned back. "You might fool Daniel, but not me." The door closed behind them. I stood still in the living room. My mind a mess. A headache pulsed from the back of my neck. I didn't want to start my marriage with battle lines, but I also refused to become a puppet in an outdated family drama. Less than 10 minutes later, the lock clicked. Daniel was home early. He saw the folder on the table, saw my pale face. He set his keys down, stepped closer. What's going on, Emma? Some moments stretched time each second, heavy with unspoken weight. Daniel walked in his eyes quickly, scanning the folder on the glass table before landing on me, frozen hands clenched. What's going on, Emma? He asked, voice low but alert. I opened my mouth, but my throat was dry. Finally, I sat gently pushing the folder toward him. You should see this. Daniel picked it up. Reading the first lines, his face shifted. He flipped through the rest, then looked at me, shock mixed with anger. Mom brought this, I nodded slowly, with a notary. They wanted me to sign today. He exhaled sharply, stood pacing a few steps to release the tension in his chest. I sat still, feeling like I'd accidentally tossed a match into a gas can. What did you tell them, that I wouldn't sign without you? And if your mom wants to talk to you, I won't stop her. Daniel sat beside me. His hand found mine, squeezing tight. You did the right thing. That evening, Linda called. I don't know what she and Daniel said, only that he stepped out to the balcony and stayed there for nearly half an hour. When he returned, his face was set. You won't have to sign anything, he said. I told Mom clearly. I don't agree. I won't accept her treating you like this. I nodded. I should have felt relieved, but strangely a new unease stirred fear. I knew Linda. She wasn't one to back down easily. When refused, she wouldn't let go. She'd quietly shift tactics. 3 days later, I got an email from Aunt Carol, Linda's sister. Polite words barely hid the probing tone. I believe you're a smart woman, and financial transparency only strengthens a marriage. Your reaction makes me truly worried for Daniel. I didn't reply. Daniel advised me to stay silent, but I knew this was the start of an undercurrent. Linda stopped confronting directly. Instead, she began shaping my image in the eyes of Daniel's family as secretive, guarded, controlling. Sunday dinners at my in-laws grew stifling. I felt the stares from relatives, unspoken but scrutinizing. Linda no longer snapped at me, but she'd casually share stories about wives hiding slush funds or divorces over finances whenever I was around. Daniel staunchly defended me. He couldn't hide his disappointment with his mother. One night after dinner back home, he said, I don't understand why Mom's changed like this. She wasn't like this before. I stayed quiet. I didn't dare say that maybe she'd always been this way, just hadn't needed to show it until someone threatened her position. One thing I hadn't told Daniel Linda was right about one thing. I did have premarital assets. 3 apartments still in my name, no mortgages, no debts. I paid annual taxes diligently, but I'd hidden them, not to deceive him, but to protect a part of myself I wasn't ready to share. That truth grew heavier in my heart. Not because I felt wrong, but because I feared if Daniel ever found out, would his love stay intact? Or would he look at me like his mother had, full of doubt and calculation? One late weekend afternoon, as Daniel fixed a kitchen faucet, I leaned against the doorway, my mind heavy. Daniel? I started. He looked up, smiling. Yeah, I meant to confess that I had something to admit. But I swallowed it, saying only, thanks for always standing by me. He wiped his hands, came close, kissed my forehead. Because you're my family, and I won't let anyone make you feel out of place in your own life. In that moment, I believed with him I could overcome anything. But I didn't foresee the long road ahead where I'd not only defend our love, but face my own conscience. I started journaling again, something I'd stopped at 17. The pages became my only safe space to pour everything out. I wrote about fear love and the things I'd never said, especially those 3 apartments. Write, tear up. Write again, hide in a drawer. Maybe one day I'd give those pages to Daniel, but not now. I knew Linda hadn't stopped, and I knew worse might still lie ahead. But I also knew one thing: I wasn't alone. Have you ever seen someone walk into your home like they still own it? Though they never laid a brick or drove a nail. With Linda, our private space mine, and Daniel's never truly felt private. After Daniel refused the post-nup, I thought she'd back off quietly. She didn't. Linda just changed her approach. No more notaries at my door. Instead, she started showing up. More often. First it was weekends, just dropping by, she'd say. Brought some walnut cookies Daniel loves. Then coincidental visits near our place right at rush hour. She'd bring coffee flowers or just herself. At first I tried to be cordial. She was my mother-in-law after all. but soon I felt my breath tightening bit by bit. "How much do you spend on clothes each month?" Linda asked while I baked in the kitchen. She sat at the island, legs crossed, her tone light, as if asking about the weather. I paused, startled. "I don't keep exact track. It varies." "Does Daniel know? I mean, everything should be transparent, right? Especially for newlyweds." I smiled, swallowing my retort. Instead, I slid the tray into the oven, set the timer. Inside, a slow fire smoldered. Linda didn't stop there. She asked about my salary savings investment plans, even our apartment's rent costs, though she knew we owned it. I dodged gracefully, but the pressure was real. Daniel sensed something shifting. One evening after Linda left, he sank into a chair, rubbing his head. "I feel like Mom's probing us." "Do you feel that?" I nodded lightly, saying nothing. I knew if I spoke, things might spiral. I didn't want to make his mother an enemy, but I couldn't pretend forever. One afternoon, I came home from work to find Linda already inside. She'd used the spare key Daniel lent her once when I was sick. I froze, seeing her, inspecting our bookshelf. She held an investment accounting book. "Oh, Emma, you're back. I was looking for a book Daniel mentioned. Found it in your study." I nodded, hiding my irritation. After that day, I told Daniel firmly I want to change the front door code. He agreed, but I saw the hesitation in his eyes. He was caught between mother and wife, between filial duty and our privacy. His exhaustion grew clearer. It didn't end there. Linda started suggesting investments. "I think Daniel should consider joining the family's transport business. Your cousins are planning a new branch in Connecticut. If you two have spare funds, now's a good time to jump in." I swallowed my water, faking a cough to avoid answering. She looked at me, her gaze sharpening. "Emma, you're in finance, you understand markets. A company running over 20 years? No bad debt, steady clients, what's not to like?" I smiled. "Yes, but every investment has risks. I think we need to discuss it thoroughly." Linda's lips twitched as if she saw through my real answer. The pressure built daily. Our apartment no longer felt like home. I'd walk in always on guard, checking if my computer was touched, if drawers were disturbed. Daniel tried to keep peace, but I saw him fraying. He woke earlier, slept, later snapped for no reason. Once, when I asked about weekend plans, he barked, "Can you stop scheduling everything? I just want to rest?" I froze. I wasn't angry, just sad, because I understood we were both caught in an undeclared war. That night alone, I stared at 3 folders in a locked drawer, deeds to the 3 apartments. Still in my name, and I'd never told Daniel. I wondered if I told him now, would he trust me? Or would he see me as the calculating woman Linda implied I wanted to believe in love? But I also knew love isn't immune to hurt. And truth revealed at the wrong time can cut like a blade. I put the papers back. Locked the drawer, tucked the key in my purse. I wasn't ready to lose control. Not yet. Some secrets don't surface through betrayal, but through cruel coincidence. It was a Thursday. I was at the office when a call came from an unknown number. A man's voice, polite, professional. "Hello, I'm Mark Lang, a real estate agent with Crown Realty. We're finalizing the transfer of an apartment at Sapphire Central owner Emma Monroe. Can you confirm your phone and address for the e-contract?" I froze for seconds. "Can you call back later?" "I'm in a meeting," I said, hastily hanging up. My heart raced. How did this leak? I'd never listed that apartment for sale. I only had a manager handle rentals quarterly. I was meticulous with every signature. Yet, I called my property manager. He apologized profusely, saying Mark, a new rental agent, mixed up contact lists. But that didn't matter. The information was out, and I knew Linda needed little more than a name and a suspicion to start digging. 2 days later, Linda called Daniel and me for a family dinner at her place. The meal's vibe was off. Too much silence, glances exchanged. The table was set for 6, including Aunt Carol, Uncle Ben, and Daniel's cousin. I sensed something waiting at the meal's end. I was right. After dessert, Linda set her glass down, pulling a stack of color-printed papers from her bag. "Emma, I came across something, and I think it's time we're honest with each other." On the table, a copy of the Sapphire Central deed my name. Photos of the building's facade, an email from the agent confirming ownership. Daniel froze. Linda continued slow and clear. This apartment's in your name, no mortgage rented for nearly $7,000 a month. That's premarital property, correct? I couldn't dodge anymore. I swallowed hard. Yes, it's an inheritance from my grandmother, along with 2 others. I didn't tell not to hide, but because I was afraid. Linda cut in. Afraid of who, Daniel, or that we'd know you're not just an ordinary bride. Daniel raised a hand to intervene, but I met his eyes. I didn't tell, because I saw how my mother was belittled for having her own assets. I didn't want that repeated. I trust you, Daniel, but I wasn't sure I'd be trusted back if I spoke too soon. The room fell silent. Daniel looked at me long and steady. Then he turned to his mother. I'm disappointed Emma didn't tell me sooner, but that doesn't mean she's wrong. And I'm more disappointed that you chose to humiliate her in front of the family. Linda exhaled sharply. Do you know what else she might be hiding? I felt the room hold its breath. Daniel took my hand. I don't need to know everything today. But I need one thing: respect for my wife. She has a past assets, but what matters is now she's here with me. I didn't know whether to cry or smile, maybe both, because I knew that trust once given no stack of deeds could break. After that dinner, Daniel and I drove home in silence. But it wasn't heavy silence. It was needed letting emotions settle. At home, Daniel sat at the table, opened his laptop. I sat across. His eyes were red, but his gaze soft. Is there anything else you think I should know? I nodded. This time I told everything: 3 apartments, estimated values, annual taxes, the manager. He didn't react, just listened slowly. When I finished, Daniel stood, came to me, wrapped me in his arms. I don't love you for what you have, or don't have. I love you for you. I sobbed in that embrace. But I knew Linda hadn't stopped. She'd lost 1 round, but the war wasn't over. As we left that night, she'd said something chilling. She might be hiding even more. Some family gatherings aren't called meetings, but everyone knows they're there to listen and judge. That Sunday, Daniel and I were invited to lunch at his grandparents' an old Long Island estate where the family gathered for holidays. But this wasn't a birthday, Christmas, or any clear occasion. I had a hunch what was coming. After Linda's parting shot, she might be hiding even more. I knew she wouldn't stop at one tense dinner. When we arrived, the living room was full: Linda, Daniel's father, Richard, Aunt Carol, Uncle Ben, and 2 cousins. Their eyes turned to me as the door opened. I sat beside Daniel, back straight, hands clasped under the table, clinging to my last shred of calm. Linda spoke first, no preamble. We're here today to clarify things, because trust in family is the foundation of all relationships. I nodded slightly. Daniel squeezed my hand, a reminder. I'm here. Richard, usually reserved, spoke. Emma, we know you have separate assets. No one forbids that. But why didn't you say anything from the start? I took a deep breath, meeting each gaze, because I believe love shouldn't start with numbers. Those assets were inherited from my grandmother, entirely premarital. I declared them clearly in my personal tax filings: no fraud or legal concealment. I kept them private, not to deceive, but to wait for the right moment. Carol interrupted. But don't you think that made Daniel's family feel betrayed? Especially when Linda proposed a postnup and you refused. I gave a faint smile. Refusing to sign doesn't mean I lied. I didn't sign because I didn't want to start a marriage with a contract of distrust. That's not betrayal. The room's air thickened like smoke. Daniel stood. His voice was steady, not loud. Let me say this once clearly: I know about Emma's 3 apartments. She told me everything after that night at Mom's, and I trust her completely. Her initial silence doesn't make me love her less or doubt her. Richard frowned. But don't you see it as a sign of defensiveness? Daniel shook his head. I see it as someone who's been hurt by prejudice and learned to protect herself. If I were a woman in this society, I'd probably do the same. Linda scoffed. So if something else is hidden later, you'll call it self-protection too. I turned to her, meeting her eyes without flinching. If you'd ever been loved without your bank balance being scrutinized, maybe you'd understand me better. She stood. You're rude. Daniel stood too. No, Emma's honest. And you never asked, you only judged. The meeting ended in silence. We left, no one saw us out. On the drive, Daniel held my hand. I don't want to live between 2 fronts anymore. I'm tired. I looked at him. Me too. He pulled over, paused, then said, What if we move, find somewhere else? Farther, where we can start fresh, free from control. I wasn't surprised. Maybe I'd wanted this for a while. Hearing him say it lifted a weight. I'm in. When Daniel nodded, I knew this wasn't escape. It was protecting what mattered most, our love. One chilly March afternoon, rain fell softly steady, not heavy enough to soak, but persistent enough to seep into those waiting. I went to pick up Paul, our firstborn Daniel's and mine, at preschool. 3 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs and star-shaped cookies. I often teased that Paul was love's purest crystal, not for resembling anyone, but for making us fall in love again daily. I never thought a rainy afternoon could shift how I saw someone I once viewed as an adversary. I entered the main hall. Miss Karen, Paul's teacher, smiled. Paul was cheerful today. But there's something you should know. I frowned. What is it? She lowered her voice, pointing to the schoolyard, where mahogany trees and benches lined the fence. An older woman has been standing there since 2 p.m. Didn't ask to come in. Didn't do anything. Just watched the playground. I followed her gesture. Under a faded silver umbrella in the drizzle stood a small woman, upright, not fully covered. She didn't move, just gazed through the fence. I didn't need a closer look to know who it was. Linda. I stepped outside, no umbrella. Cold wind slipped into my coat. Rain clung to my hair, but I felt nothing except a strange pang in my chest. She turned at my footsteps on the wet pavement. Same face, same eyes, now not sharp like blades, but softer. Perhaps longing. I didn't mean to bother, she said, voice trembling. I just wanted to see him a little. I was silent for seconds. Why didn't you call us? She gave a sad smile, her gaze shrinking as if fearing the question. I didn't think I'd be welcome. Paul ran out of class, then squealing when he saw me, but froze, spotting the woman beside me. He hesitated, then whispered. Grandma Linda knelt, not reaching out. She just smiled gently. Hello, my love. Watching them, I felt a long-locked door crack open, just enough for a strange breeze to slip through. That night, with Paul asleep, I sat in the kitchen, tea steaming, mind reeling. Daniel was in Chicago for work. I texted him I saw Mom today. No reply yet. I thought of what I'd said, endured, fought to hold boundaries. Then I thought of the woman in the rain, not hiding, not begging, just quietly watching a grandson she couldn't approach. Motherhood taught me, some pains need no words. They just need witnessing. I sent a message. Emma, are you free this Saturday, Mom? If you want, come over. Have tea, play with Paul. Even for a bit. An hour of silence. Then 3 typing dots. Linda, thank you. I'll be there. Saturday. Linda came, no gifts. No heavy makeup, no probing eyes. Just a grandma wanting to play with her grandson. I let them build Legos on the floor, retreating to the kitchen to brew tea, watching from afar. For the first time I saw Linda laugh, not a calculated smile, but a real one. As she left, I walked her to the door. Thank you, she said. I nodded. But you understand. There'll be boundaries, right? She nodded. I'm not asking for full forgiveness. Just a chance to start over one step at a time. I met her eyes, then you're stepping in the right direction. Back inside, Paul was stacking blocks, muttering, Grandma says dinosaurs eat carrots. I burst out laughing. Sometimes trust doesn't need concrete. Just a cup of tea and a glance through a rainy window. Some things arrive right on time, not early, not late, as if they know when you're ready to understand. That day, I was reorganizing our bookshelf in our new apartment. We'd moved to a smaller, cozier place, just enough for 3, a bookshelf, and a few potted plants. I still believed happiness doesn't need much space, just enough room to breathe, and light to trust. I pulled books from boxes, dusted them, arranged by cover color, a small habit that tidied my mind. Lifting an old novel-torn spine one my grandmother read to me as a child, a thin yellow envelope slipped out. I sat on the floor, heart slowing, as I recognized her slanted handwriting, to Emma when you've grown. I opened it. The paper was yellowed ink, slightly blurred, but each word carried her voice, gentle, resolute. My dear girl, if you're reading this, you've crossed some steep slopes in life. You might be angry with someone or feel hurt, but I hope you to remember, protect what you've been given. That's your right. But don't forget, kindness is the most precious legacy I want to leave you. Forgiveness isn't surrender. It's when you're strong enough to no longer need to win. I believe you'll understand. I read it repeatedly as if each line could peel away the walls I'd built over years. I set the letter on the table, sitting quietly for long. In my heart, things reordered not by right or wrong, but by what felt true, what to hold, what to release. I thought of Linda, the tense months, her words sharp as knives, her doubting eyes, but also of her standing in rain to see Paul bowing quietly when invited learning to begin anew at an age when most settle. Maybe she didn't love as I wanted, but she was trying, and maybe that was enough to start forgiving. From then, I didn't keep distance. I texted Linda not often, but regularly, invited her to play with Paul some afternoons. At first, I stayed close watching, but soon I saw no need. I'd retreat to the kitchen, Redwork giving them their space. Paul didn't seem to recall Grandma's absence. To him, Linda was a better than mom at stories turning breakfast into flying toast or crayons into magic swords. One day, wiping the kitchen, I heard Paul's giggles from the living room. I peeked. Linda held a dinosaur book voice, shifting high and low. Paul clutched his belly, rolling on the sofa. I couldn't help it. I smiled, not because I forgot what happened, but because I chose what to keep in my memory. That afternoon, as Linda prepared to leave, she hesitated. "You still don't fully trust me, do you?" I was honest, not completely, but I trust you're trying, and that deserves credit. She nodded, not hiding her warmed eyes. "Thank you." I squeezed her hand lightly. "We're restarting. And every start needs time. Some storms don't come with thunder. Some begin with a 5 a.m. call." The phone buzzed on my bedside table. I woke, heart-pounding instinct warning something was wrong. Daniel's name lit the screen. Mom had a stroke. St. John's Hospital. I'm heading there. I leaped up, skipping hairbrush or water, bundled Paul in a blanket, left him with a neighbor, then raced as if outrunning the worry chasing me. Linda lay in intensive care, unconscious face, deathly pale tubes everywhere. Daniel stood by her side, shell-shocked. Doctors say a small bleed from high blood pressure. Needs surgery soon. But the hospital's out of pocket. They need a $30,000 deposit. I didn't hesitate. Sign the papers. I'll handle it. Daniel looked at me, stunned. No conditions. Just do it. I didn't feel noble. I just knew some moments don't need proof or measure, just action, right when it counts. The surgery took 4 hours. I sat by Daniel saying little, but between us no longer the cold of past tense years. Just warmth of unity facing something bigger than any grudge. Finally, 4 hours, doctor out. Surgery successful, but Linda needed days in ICU. I exhaled, but my shoulders didn't fully ease. I knew some recoveries aren't just physical. 3 days later, Linda woke. I entered with Daniel. She turned, saw eyes brimming. "Emma," I sat by the bed softly. "You're okay now, Mom," she sobbed. Not pain, not physical pain, but tears unstoppable when someone knows they've received the unexpected. I'm sorry. For everything. For hurting you. For not trusting you. For thinking you came to Daniel for something other than love. I took her hand, cold, weak, but no longer trembling with pride. "I don't need apologies. I just need you to know my love for Daniel. My respect for you never was fake." That afternoon, Daniel and I sat in the hospital cafe. He touched my hand. "I don't know what to say, but thank you." I shook my head, smiled. We're family. Family isn't always perfect. But when it matters, who stays counts most. Linda recovered slowly, steadily. After a week, she moved to a regular ward. I visited daily, bringing Soup Flowers comics for Paul to draw for her. One day entering, she pointed to a card on the, Paul wrote, "Mom says dinosaurs don't hold grudges. I'm not holding any. I love you, Grandma." I laughed. Linda laughed, eyes shining. "You taught him what took me a lifetime to learn." I squeezed her hand. There's still time. In the hospital hall, as Daniel signed discharge papers, Linda held my hand. "Emma, thank you. Not just the money, for not abandoning your family even after I pushed you away." I looked at her, feeling truly for the first time family doesn't need blood. Sometimes it's built through forgiveness, and acts no one owed but chose. We stood 2 women, 2 generations, hand in hand amid disinfectant smells and pale spring early sun. No more words. Because some things deepest when unspoken. Some things money can't buy but love builds. We decided to build a house. A real one, not rented, not temporary, not tied to anyone but us. The land an hour's drive from City had grass, a red maple out front, a stone path curving like an arm around our future home. Daniel sketched plans. He'd studied architecture before teaching economics. I picked paint flooring. Paul wanted a room with a big window to see the moon. The house was a dream, but also a symbol. Built by Daniel and me from ruin and repair, hurt and grace. A place to begin again, fearless now. One afternoon, arranging dried flowers in a ceramic vase on our temporary kitchen table, Linda stopped by. "I know you're building a house. I won't interfere, but if you want, I could help with interior design." I was taken aback. Linda, who'd called my taste too minimalist, offering help. I thought, then nodded. "Okay, but I keep final say. And no touching the bedroom or kitchen." She laughed. "Fair enough. I'll stick to the living room. Deal. It was the first time we agreed, not compromise, but shared vision. Weeks later, we shopped together, curtains, fabrics, chairs. She'd push for beige over slate gray, but now stopped when I said no. Once rejecting a glittery chandelier, Linda smiled. "You've got such Emma vibe." I laughed. For the first time, my name felt like a badge, not something to mold. The day the house finished, soft golden light glowed. Daniel carried Paul inside. I followed with lavender, set it on the dining table. That night's dinner, we invited family, everyone, even those once opposed. No one mentioned past, but I felt it in every dish. Every small story shared a quiet effort to renew something. As dinner wound down, Paul hugged Linda Grandma. "Tell a dinosaur story." She laughed loud, but then looked at me. Her eyes held something new. She stood, raised her glass. "There was a time I thought I'd never understand, Emma. I was wrong. Today, wrong. Seeing this house, how you've shaped your family, I realize Emma's not just my daughter-in-law. She's part of my blood." I looked at her, tears unstopped. But this time they were peace. None perfect, but family doesn't need perfect, just real enough to keep going together. When I wrote these final lines, I realized this journey isn't just one woman's path through pain and misunderstanding. It's anyone's who's had to choose between guarding self and opening to others. We all carry secrets, fearing hurt judgment or lack of trust. But only by facing them, daring truth, we build true bonds, not flawless, but sincere. Chosen peace is tough, but worth it. Not everyone enters your life to love, but finding one who grows with you, that's rare treasure.